Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I'm excited to have conversations around the conversation of men's mental health, men's mental wellness. We're the podcast for men, and so we got conversations about this. Today's conversation is one that I just listen to this whole thing because it's going to give you hope for the world. I know it's a bold statement. Mike, you know, what are you talking about? Yeah, no, it will give you hope for the world. The guy that is on this show today is a guy by the name of Lawrence Harris. You can find him at lawrencecharris.com. He's 20. Okay. Now, it's not just his story. His story is one that's very powerful. And what he decided to do with the circumstances that he went through as a teenager. He's from Philadelphia, born and raised, broadcasting from there, in our conversation today as well. An amazing story, but it's the insights as to who he is. Lawrence actually goes and speaks to all sorts of different groups, including especially teenagers. And he has a heart to help teenagers get through this very, very awkward point in life in an unprecedented time. And he's very good at it. And he's written a book already called Made for More. And my goodness, what a title. But boy, can he ever speak to an adult audience, and gives me hope for the world. I see someone like that, and it's like, if this world has people like that in it at that age, the world's going to be a place. I promise you, there are guys who are in their 50s, 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s who will listen to this episode, and they will have good food for good thought for their life. I'm one of them. I'm absolutely blown away by it. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app, go to hechangedit.com to see what everything's about. But just let's get to it. I hope you stay for the entire conversation with a very remarkable human named Lawrence Harris. Okay, Lawrence, so much to talk about today. I cannot wait to get into your story. When I see a young person being the light they are in this world, and by young, I mean, I'm 50, so everybody's young to me, right? But when I see a young person going out and trying to be a light in this world and to help people, specifically teenagers, in this unprecedented time and place, I just have to say thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have you on heCast today, Lawrence, and I can't wait to get into your story about how you have built this heart for helping teenagers. Welcome to heCast.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being here.
So I've already revealed, I've thrown out the dirty underwear. I'm 50. Okay, so 50 years old. How old a man are you at this time of this broadcast?
I'm 20. Now? I just turned 20 back in February.
Okay. Now, you present yourself a lot older than 20. As you grew up, did people call you an old soul? Were you that guy okay. Very much so, all your life?
Yeah, I vividly remember being 8 years old, and I was like an overly serious kid. And this is going to go into a lot of things about my life and my journey, but
good.
As a child, I was weirdly serious. Like, I always took everything literally, and I acted in a really mature yet childish way. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made it hard to make friends because I was so different from everyone.
What kind of things were different? Like, you didn't like sports, you didn't like music, or was it just outlook towards life?
It was both of those, really.
Yeah.
I was that kid who would much rather watch National Geographic than watch football. Mm-hmm. And I was a ridiculously smart child. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think I was smarter than anyone. I always assumed that, because this person's older than me, they should know more than me. So I would talk to people in a very educated way, and they would take it as if I was trying to somehow insult their intelligence. And right. I would be nice to everyone because in my head, I assumed that, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice back. That's how things should work. But right. For some reason, people didn't really reciprocate that. And I would always give and give and give to other people, and it would lead them to just taking from me. And that led to a lot of bullying. And up until the age of 11, didn't really have friends because I couldn't really find people that I related to. Because if you've ever been to Philadelphia, I was I stuck out like a sore thumb because the things I was into, the way I talked, the way I presented myself and acted, and just a lot of things about me were so different.
Philly's one of those places. So you grew up born and raised in Philly?
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled outside of it, but
yeah,
aside from 3-day trips, it's been the place I've lived my whole life.
Okay. And for those who are, I'm born and raised in Western Canada, but Philly's got a rep. And I'll tell you this, just from being, involved in the world, like sports, like I think about sports, I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm a gigantic LA Kings fan. There's a lot of arenas that I would have no problem going and following the LA Kings to and wearing an LA Kings jersey, no problem. Back in the day in the Philadelphia Spectrum, that's not one of those arenas that I would do that. I just knew that. Yeah. Like the Philly fans are different. I'm in the world of professional wrestling a little bit. And in that world, Philadelphia is legendary for their fans, for their, all the different, Philadelphia is known as a very tough, very gritty. The Philadelphia Flyers mascot is called Gritty. They're known, Philly is known for being a gritty city. Anybody who's listening to you already understands just by the way that you present yourself that you have this kind, sensitive demeanor about you.
Yeah.
And it's clear you had that when you were a kid. My goodness, you talk about, sticking out. That kindness, at the end of the day, it's a superpower, but the phrase "nice guys finish last," it sounds like you learned some hard lessons when it came to kindness growing up in that environment.
Yeah, because for one, in Philadelphia, we are known as the city of brotherly love. Yet ironically, we have one of the highest murder rates. We also have the drug capital of America. Mm-hmm. It's a neighborhood called Kensington, where in a 3-block radius, there are more drugs than anywhere else in America. Wow. Contained in that 3-block radius.
Wow.
So kindness in this city, depending on which part you're in, because we have some very friendly, very beautiful places.
Yeah.
But then we have a lot of people who naturally, when you're raised in these sorts of environments, it can lead you to being very callous, and the best word I could find for it is thinking that everyone's out to get you. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately for a lot of people, that is the truth. But it's also unfortunate too that a lot of the resources and support, not just for men's mental health, but for people in general, young people, older people, it's rare. It exists, but it's either hard to find, there's not enough awareness about it, or naturally people shame you for speaking up. As a kid, I would often get told the phrase that I needed to constantly man up and just tough it out. But manning up and always toughing it out is, we can just look at the statistics and we can see that 75% of suicides are men. That is disproportionately high. That is the same thing as if we were to say the country is 50% men and women, and 75% of all suicides are men, and there's not really much public awareness about this, there's not much knowledge on this subject, yet we're dropping like flies and no one says a thing. Yeah. You look at the statistics even farther and you see that about 35% of that are people under the age of 30. Yeah. So these are people who, we can look at people such as war veterans and we can see like, oh, it would make a lot of sense. They're very traumatized. They went through some of the harshest things ever. But we have teenagers who It's left and right. It's another one like every single day.
Yep.
If an iPhone exploded every day, there would be outrage in the streets, which is a big motivator. Is why I talk about this so much.
That's a phenomenal analogy right there. I mean, you hear one story of a device malfunctioning like that. Like a few years ago, there was a thing with, I think it was Samsung Galaxies, and there was a few very isolated incidents of them catching fire, the battery doing something. And like you said, people went out of their minds, and yet here we are with this silent crisis. I mean, everything that you just said there, it preaches to the choir of what He Changed It is all about, including the man up phrase. Like, that's one thing we've said right from the very start. I don't know how many episodes we've done and how many different specials and different places we've gone, but we've said right from the very beginning, that's something we want to take back, that phrase, because manning up, what you described there, the idea of manning up has typically been, if you're going to man up, you're just going to take whatever you're dealing with and you're going to push it down, and you're going to ignore it, and you're just going to go and keep moving forward and keep, and you're not going to deal with that. But what are the results to that? And you talk about the suicide stat, a terrible, terrible stat. And we know that. Now, here's the thing. What about the legions of men who are living quiet lives of desperation, that they don't get to that point?
Yeah.
But they ain't at the point of being happy either. They're at the point where they're just in this chaos inside them. And the idea that we want to take back the phrase man up, and He Changed It wants to lead the charge to saying, no. Here's what manning up means. Manning up means you're feeling this way. You're going through this. You're feeling this pressure. You're losing this hope.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do is you're going to put it out there in a safe environment, in a safe place with the safe people, but you're going to acknowledge it. And then you're going to do something about it. And that's what manning up really is. Imagine if just 15 or 20% of those people who are feeling that way change direction when it comes to the idea of manning up. Imagine the ripple effect of how much it would affect the world. And it feels like that's something that you're doing in the way that you're living your life. So I just appreciate everything that you just said there, because it's all what He Changed It is all about. And at 20 to have these insights, it's quite remarkable. I hope that the scales have shifted considerably from when you were 9, 10, 11 years old. And instead of getting taken advantage of, having the kindness taken advantage of, things like that, I hope you're having people who are actually using that word with you. Remarkable. The insights that you have are remarkable, Lawrence. And I hope that you're hearing that more and more and more as you are expanding and spreading your wings and building what you're building.
Thank you. I do. I really appreciate when people let me know that, because even the thing with like me getting bullied a lot as a kid, that did a lot of damage. But the real kicker was when I was 12 years old and my dad became abusive to me and my younger siblings. And, being the oldest sibling, you naturally get into this, like, I want to protect my younger siblings kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But being 12 years old, there's not really much you can do. And that leads to a feeling of like powerlessness, because, naturally as a kid, even back then, I had a lot of emotional awareness of why people do what they do. And I would ask, like, why are you doing this? Like, maybe there's something you're dealing with that, you're just taking this out in some unhealthy way. Maybe, maybe there's a reason why you're doing this. But I started to internalize that maybe I was the reason why. Like, maybe it was something wrong with me. And, then all the chaos of having to go in and out of court, getting kicked out when I was 13 and having to live with my mom full time, and just all these things piling on top of one of another. And then, getting diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, having to figure out how to live a regular life, because I describe it to people like imagine a porcupine walking through a room full of balloons and everything can just set you off back to back. Now, it's not that bad for me now, but that's after years of therapy and journaling and meditation and therapy that was specifically designed for this singular thing, then having to do a lot of my own inner self-reflection, having to admit when I needed help but didn't know how to ask for it, and having to apologize to a lot of people who I started pushing away because I didn't want them to see me like that.
Right.
And when I was 15, I kind of just got to a point where, mind you, at this point, we no longer were in each other's life, and I had been living with my mom full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at how my life was. My room was filthy. I was failing pretty much all my classes. I was just in a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like this inner decision of I'm going to get better somehow. Like somehow. And I would obsessively try to figure out what can I do to feel better about myself because
Mm-hmm.
the legal system wasn't helping, the court system wasn't helping.
Yep.
It was a very deep sense of like powerlessness. How do I be a good role model? How do I be a good brother, a good son, a good man? Like, how do I be a good person? And now I took everything I learned through those many years, how I got better, and I help to just share that with people to let them know that even if it's dark right now, it's cliche as it sounds, there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you just keep walking. But sometimes it feels really hard to walk. So you have to do whatever is necessary. It might just be as simple as step out of bed. It could be that simple, or it could be as major as like a support group or a network or therapy, or you might need to go to church. Some people, that's their thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they need to reconnect with a higher power because if they feel like they can't do it, that's why people say like, hey, let God take the wheel for you.
Yeah.
And that is the last 8 years of my life summarized.
My gosh. There's a lot there's a lot of directions I want to go in based on what you just said. One of them is I want to go back to the time when you were 15 and you were at that moment. Was there a temptation to go the other way? And
Oh, wow.
there's no way I want to be stereotypical as I say this, but you grew up in a rough city,
Yeah.
and in that rough city, there's a lot of marginalized people that
Yeah.
make a decision to move down a very different path. In fact, quite the opposite path. We talk about gangs, drugs, all the you talk about that your city has the drug capital of America in it, and so the temptation is clearly within a few miles of
Yeah.
any direction when you're in that city and you're in that place of hopelessness, of marginalization, but not just that, like confusion, not knowing what to do, because at the end of the day, I mean, there are guys listening to this, I promise you right now, that are in their 40s or 50s and they're contemplating a relationship, or they're contemplating their work life, or they're contemplating, and they're stuck. And I think that they're probably stopping their tracks right now, listening to this 20-year-old talk about things that make a tremendous amount of sense, have a tremendous amount of wisdom. And I want to go back to that 15-year-old when you kind of made the decision to kind of move in this direction. Was there the temptation to move in another direction?
Oh, yes, there was. And it was very tempting because at 15 years old, you have someone who has deeply hurt you, deeply hurt your siblings, and they're just out there somewhere living their life as if
Yeah.
none of that happened.
Yeah.
You feel the tendency to want to act very violently toward that person. But even though I was nowhere near as emotionally intelligent as I am now, I had enough understanding to know that I just don't want to end up in prison or anything like that. So the options are either I can go down a guaranteed very dark path. Like, it's guaranteed this path is going to be very dark. It looks tempting, though. Or I can go down a path that requires me to learn how to move forward when moving forward feels like the hardest thing in the world. But I know that there's a possibility I get better. And it was one of those things where I don't remember sitting down and consciously thinking this through. Like, it wasn't a thing where I had some like Excel spreadsheet and I was doing pros and cons analysis. No, I just somehow, it was like a light bulb said, we have to learn how to live a life that we enjoy again.
Yeah.
Like, we have to learn how to be happy again. Because there were many days when I didn't feel sad, but I didn't feel happy. I just felt like this fog. And it was tempting to like just keep taking my anger out on people, to keep taking my anger out on, because I had people who really loved me. Like my parent, my mom, she did, my uncles, sister. I had plenty of people who loved me, therapist, but there would be times where you push people away because to let them love you and to let them help you means to admit that I need help. And to admit I need help means that I'm currently unable to give that help to myself. And I have to admit, I've tried giving it to myself, but that hasn't got me very far. So I had to embrace the fact that in order for me to get better and not end up down a dark path inside a prison or under a bridge, I have to take the path that is harder but better.
Isn't that really, at the end of the day, I think, I've been hearing it more and more lately. Probably the reticular activating system in my brain. But when I hear it, it just really leaps out at me. I don't know how much I heard it my whole life, but never really understood it. But when you go through a trial and when you have a decision in front of you, and many times the decision itself is a gift. Like you say, the rock bottom moment where you say, I need help, that's kind of the gift. But when you're in the chaos, whatever it is, you're going down that path and it's not happy, it's not a good one. If you were to become aware of that, many times there's a choice involved. If you're in a bad relationship, or if you're in a bad place, bad work, bad living situation, bad whatever it is, and there's a choice in front of you. Typically the harder choice is the better choice, and we all know that. like most people, It's not that big of a stretch to know that the harder choice is probably the better choice. But like what you described, it's ironic because the temptation you described, well, where do you see people when the end result of that temptation? Under a bridge, in prison, dead, whatever, right? Not the better result, but it's the easier path. And the path itself becomes the temptation and the choice that we get, as opposed to the end result. What's the end result that I want? I want the choice that's going to lead me there. Doesn't matter if it's a harder choice or not. That's the result I want. And I think if you look at it that way, that might be the better way to look at things. What's the result I want?
Yeah. When you were saying that, it made me think about how, like, something I want to add on to it is, inherently people know that, hey, using this substance or acting out aggressively, like, we inherently know that that's not a good idea. But we do it because it makes the pain go away. And when you're in pain, you want to feel good now. You don't want to have to wait a year possibly to feel better. Because we know that talking about our problems, working through it through counseling, guidance, mentorship, support with someone else, therapy, journaling, whatever, we know that can help, but not right now. But right now, we just want the little voice to be quiet, and that is what leads people to drinking. Because they know for 100% fact drinking literal poison isn't a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I feel better. And you can't really a lot of society kind of looks at the addict and they see the addict. But really what that is someone's child who, for whatever reason, somehow, some way, ended up at a point where they became addicted to something.
Yeah.
And underneath all addiction, there's usually a good reason. Like, there's usually a good reason. Like, this person went through severe trauma.
Yep.
This person was a war veteran. This person, like, they got divorced, lost their kids, and never saw them again. That will lead a man to the bottle. And when he tells you that, you sit there and you go, if I was him in that situation, I probably would have did the same thing.
Yep.
Because it's really easy to look at someone else, point the finger, and blame them for how they behaved. But once you see the details, like once you know what really happened, you understand. And it stops you from being able to point the finger because you realize that they're human just like me.
You know, empathy, the irony of the two-way street that is empathy never ceases to astound me. The first one is, you know, thinking about others. And I think about, like, I use the example of getting cut off in traffic, right? I don't know. It was maybe it was a therapy session I was in. I might have been a podcast. I forget where it was, but the situation was posed to me. Imagine you're in traffic, you're trying to get to work, you're trying to get to wherever you're going, and you get cut off. And the person who cuts you off, and this is where, you know, I personally, thank goodness, I'm very grateful that road rage is not one of my things. But there are a lot of people around where in traffic, if they get cut off, that's where the road rage starts to come out. And the situation, or the analogy that I was told is about empathy is like, okay, well, imagine, it might have been Brene Brown, actually, now that I think about it. Imagine the person who cut you off had his mother in the back seat who was having a heart attack and was trying to get to the hospital at that moment. Immediately, all anger goes away for that person. Immediately. Like, it's immediate. If that person who is road raging and is angry and is ready to start and wants to go back around and cut the person off again, suddenly had the idea, imagine he was taking his sick mother to the hospital. It just disappears. Poof, just like that. And when we have empathy for others, again, homeless, you look at the I mean, it's happening everywhere across the entire continent. You know, you look at the epidemic of opiates and what's happening. The pharmaceutical industry has really created a situation now where there are a lot of people out there who are zombies on the street, quite literally, and it's happening in every city. It's happening all over the place. But if you look at one of those people, maybe they're stumbling across the street, or maybe they're folded over in half, you know, doing the fentanyl hug, I think they call it. But then you think about them and you realize they were somebody's baby at one point. And you start to imagine, at what point were they a baby that was loved and that went off the track? Was it before they were 5 years old? Was it something that happened when they were 10 or 15 years old in their formative years? And you start thinking about it, and the empathy for that person who might be causing you harm that day, not harm, but causing you frustration that day, suddenly changes things. So that's the one part of empathy, and it's an amazing thing. Then the other part that you brought up that you started things with, imagine if we treated ourselves with that same kind of empathy.
Yeah.
I think the idea of asking for help, getting to that place of saying, I need help here, instead of living that quiet life of silent desperation, would come a lot sooner if we could exercise that same empathy for ourselves. So empathy is that ironic two-way street. And what you're talking about here, I think, speaks to both of them. Yeah,
I wrote an entire book on this, not just on empathy, but on my life and everything. So if anyone wants that, there's that link below.
Plug the book. Okay, so link below, yes, and we will put that in but where, if somebody wants to see what your story is, Lawrence, where do they go?
It's called Made for More. You can get it on my website, lawrenceharris.com. That book goes into vivid detail, not just on my story with childhood abuse and bullying, but it goes into how did that show up in my life? So things about how did I treat my relationships? Like I had relationships where people genuinely loved me. And I look back and I treated them in some pretty poor ways. I never like cheated on anybody or anything like that, but I was pretty ungrateful. And I always had this mentality of the smallest thing they might say or do would make me feel annoyed. And at the time, I thought that, oh, that person must be annoying me. They must be doing it on purpose. But really, what was going on was without them even knowing or trying to, they were reflecting to me parts of myself that I didn't want to look at. Like, and then I go into things about how this would show up in the way I managed jobs because I would get a job and like clockwork, within 2 months, I either quit or I am fired or I'm laid off. It didn't matter if it was McDonald's. It didn't matter if it was door-to-door sales. It did not matter the job. I went from thing to thing to thing because I was trying to chase something. And after years of thinking about what is this something that I'm trying to chase, it's a feeling of safety. Like that's what I was trying to find. Because when you're in an environment where one of your parents is who's supposed to be a guidance and role model and able to provide a sense of structure and looking up to what I should become, when you realize that, wait, I can't look at this person as a sense of guidance. Now you don't know what to look for. And as a teenager, naturally, you go on YouTube, you go on TikTok, Instagram, wherever, and you see some very self-destructive advice. Like, you can't trust anyone, and you just have to handle everything yourself. And this is stuff that, for whatever reason, is most promoted and most popular. So I started getting kind of wrapped up in that. And that advice does not lead to a healthy relationship. It leads to a whole lot of short-term fun, which ultimately over time starts to kind of eat at your soul. And then you start looking at things like my views on money, my views on what is success, my views on what makes me valuable in the eyes of the world. And one of the I remember seeing this so much when I was younger. The idea that men are only loved for what they provide. And unfortunately, when you look around at the world, we can find examples where that appears to be true. But we can also find examples of people who like genuinely love you. Like there are people who genuinely love you. Like if you were homeless, they still love you. If you lost it all, they still love you. They would help you to get back on your feet and encourage you and support you, but they still love you. Even on your worst of days, they love you. But if we keep having this mentality of, I just need to get more, I need more money, I need a faster car, I need a bigger house, I need more status, I need more. Eventually, that person, they will love you from a distance because they've spent years trying to actually love you and you just wouldn't let them. And it's something that when I realized that, I broke down because I could see how it wasn't like, it's not my fault what happened to me, but I have to take accountability for what I do moving forward. And once we have the knowledge and the resources of what we can do and what can help us, now it's on us to do the work. That work really could be saying that I need somebody to help me. Like when people go to things like Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the first things they have them do is admit they're an addict. They have them admit, hey, my name is John. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict.
Yep.
Not to shame you, not to have you say that you're going to be that forever, but just to admit this is where I currently am, and I am here to get help.
Yep.
And for me, that came in so many forms. I had to therapy. That was something where I had to admit this happened. Even journaling, which is something I promote to everyone. If you don't know how to say it to somebody else, just write it down on a piece of paper.
Yep.
And admit to yourself, here's how I feel. But even though I feel this way, I'm going to do the best that I can with what I've got. And ironically, one of those things that it led me to do was start making YouTube videos when I was 16 to just, even when I didn't have it all figured out or I didn't know what exactly I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take something that I knew, something I realized, and throw it out there on the internet. And over time, I got a little better, and it turned into now I go to mental health organizations and high schools and anywhere else where they'll let me get up there and share my truth. And I ultimately have been able to turn the worst, most dark and twisted thing that has ever happened to me into a career.
Yeah, this is crazy. And we're going to get, I'm glad that you kind of went in this direction because this is the direction I wanted to go in. Before we continue down that path, there's a couple things you said. The guys who are chasing more, but also the guys who think that they're earning their value through providing. You knocked me on my ass when you said that, Lawrence, because there's a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s who hit that. You talk about the suicide rate, right? The vast majority are middle-aged to older guys. And a big chunk of that has to do many times, many people say, with misguided purpose. They think their purpose is to earn by providing. And it doesn't come. The fulfillment of life doesn't come. These things don't come. And it's all about earning love and earning respect and earning these things. And it's such a misguided notion because it's sitting right there for almost all of us. Like you said, there's somebody who loves you. And if there's somebody who's in a dark corner right now, there's somebody who will love you. There's somebody who will love you. Even if you feel like there's nobody, there's somebody who will, because love is there. And love is that thing that it's that intangible that you can't put it into an algorithm. It's not like that. It's something outside of all of the crap that's there. So yes, the guys who are more, and I'm a collector too. I always have to check myself because I'm a collector. You know, I'm not materialistic, but I love collecting things, and I collect all sorts of different things. Right. But is it where I equate my value? No. I love having a really cool memorabilia collection for sports, or I've got a Jordan collection. I love them. Love that stuff. Is it where my value comes? No, that's me taking delight in the world around me and knowing what I'm passionate about. But man, the guys who are just that insatiable thirst to pick things up, the insatiable thirst to try and earn. And I think that one there is the silent one. That's the one that's not plastered all over social media. The guy who's just saying, you know what, if I work those extra hours this week, I can buy my kid this or that. And the wife, the kids, whoever it is, the family, they have no idea that that's the private battle that's going inside that guy. And so we've got a disconnect. And for you to say that, how you said it, and again, not everything is our fault. Not your fault that your dad went the direction that he went, but it is our responsibility. That was the other thing you said that I think is just so key that isn't talked about enough. Hey, you know what? You're not victimizing yourself when you're in a bad spot that wasn't your fault. But it is responsibility. It's your responsibility as to how you're going to deal with that. The fact that you have learned this at the age that you have, again, and I don't mean to be the broken record. I know it's like this on every podcast you go on that isn't just focused on kids and teens and whatnot. I want to move in that direction. You talk about the idea that you were workshopping this with yourself on YouTube, and I love that. probably a very small audience that devoted at first. You know, you probably had some people watching where you're workshopping all these things with yourself at 16, which is phenomenal. But I want to go back even a little further. At what point did you know in your life that you wanted to help others when it came to this?
It was, I would say it started at 15 before I started making those videos, because I knew I had something to say, but part of me was afraid to say it. Like, I was afraid to post because I was worried about, you know, people judging. I was in high school at the time, so like when I would post something, it wouldn't be a stranger judging me. It would be you walk into the school and people look at you like, like you have actual judgment.
Yeah.
And how my mental health already was, I was already like very like in a dark place. But thankfully, I would just start by making like 1 minute clips on Instagram and TikTok, and they would automatically delete from my story. So I have years of stuff I've recorded that just isn't out there.
Yep.
But the YouTube videos, those ones started out at first to just, I want to in general motivate people. Like that's where I was coming with those. And I want to talk about, you know, a little bit of my life, just a little bit. But at 17 and 18, that's when I really saw that, okay, this motivation stuff is good. Like this could help somebody, but there comes a point where people stop needing motivation and they start needing like actual what to do.
Action.
Yeah, like, okay, I feel motivated, but like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, just feel good. How? Believe in yourself. How? You know, just if you set your mind to it, you can achieve anything. Well, where do I start? Right. So I started shifting my videos from just like general, here's my thoughts, to more actionable takeaways. Like, you know, if you start journaling, here's some of the stuff that you can expect. And people would message me things like, Lawrence, you know, I'm dealing with this problem in my life, and I'll make a video on it. And over time, it started to build up to where I saw that maybe I should put my life out there. Like maybe I should take the stuff that I went through and put that on the internet so people can see what makes this guy qualified. Because I used to really get upset. I wouldn't say the words upset, but I would get kind of offended when I would see somebody speaking on a subject that I could tell that they haven't lived. Like,
right.
There's a lot of there was a lot of content creators who they speak on things like men's wellness and men's mental health and things like that. And they've never said what they went through to make them qualified. Right. Because degrees and things like that, those are great. No, not putting that down. But there is a very big difference between I have a degree in something and hear what I've lived. So I took what I lived, started sharing that, and that's when everything really took off for me. Because now people can see that this is a guy who isn't talking at me. He's talking to and for and with me. Because now they can see that, oh, if this guy went from that to that, he has to know what he's talking about. So even if I don't think it'll work, I'm going to try journaling. And everyone who tried it has told me it worked. Maybe not overnight, but with enough time it does. And it really is a beautiful thing to be able to know that what I'm doing is helping people, and not just helping them, but cliche as it sounds, it's changing their life. I have in 2025, with 2025, I did a speech for this youth organization, and 2 of the students went out and started a mental health nonprofit.
Yeah.
Someone messaged me about my YouTube videos, and she told me that she took the advice from one of them. She got out of a toxic relationship, improved her like connection with her family. Her mental health got better. Her grades got better, all because I made a YouTube video. And that's what fueled me to keep doing this, even when the money might not be apparent.
I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this mindset. And again, you know, I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that go on a life quest to learn what you have learned at this age. It's astounding to me, Lawrence. I can't even. I just appreciate the insights so much. And I think about, I host another podcast too, and the audience that are a part of that podcast. It's a podcast about David Letterman, and so I'm the host of the Letterman podcast, and there's no one else that's done it. And I can remember the tonnage of mocking and judgment. Like you said, this is real judgment. I'm being judged from a very, very critical fan base, very, very cynical fan base. And then every once in a while though, so at first, like people are like, I can go online and I can find comments about, oh, this podcast is so needed, but I just hate the host. I hate the host. The host is this, those are that, like just bile and sewage being shot right at me. And you know what? It's cool. It's all right. I got my street cred with the Letterman crew. I'm all right. But then every once in a while, you get somebody who says, oh my gosh, I have been, waiting for this show here. It makes me feel so good. It makes me feel, and you get a compliment from somebody, just one. Oh, that's manna from heaven. That's just the thing. And I just think about you in high school, putting this content out there that isn't popular. But then when that first person says to you that you helped them, and then you realize, oh, wait a second, there are other people who really like the glow of the light that I put out there. I'm going to turn this on higher. And you have made that connection before you're even legally allowed in the United States to drink alcohol. That is, to me, again, these are things that some guys, there are going to be guys who are listening to this right now going, this is a 20-year-old, what? Because they're literally coming to this same precipice of, it does not matter. Stop the tribalism. Don't worry about, tune out the negative and just tune in the positive. You're going to find your tribe without tribalism. You're going to find your purpose. You're going to find the thing that lights your fire, not your career, because careers don't do it. Although guys fall into that trap all the time. They think that their career defines who they are. No, this is the stuff you're talking about that defines who you are. And you're learning it at an age that is significantly younger than what most men would learn this. Again, I know grown men who are almost at the grave that haven't gotten to the place of insight that you are at right now. That's friggin' trippy, Lawrence. I don't know how often, and it's good that you speak to teens, and I want to talk about that, because at the end of the day, the people who talk about, who's this 20-year-old kid? Are you qualified? They're a life coach that hasn't experienced life.
Yeah, I've had people
I love
say
how
that
you
to
talk
me.
about that. Love how you talk about that. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Like, who would be more applicable? I got a granddaughter who's 8 years old, and I try, and she's my everything. I see her 5 days a week. I really try and pour everything into her as much as I can. But at the end of the day, who's going to relate to her when she's a preteen or a teenager better? Someone with your perspective and your age, or someone with mine? Life skills, okay, maybe with me, but for the perspective of going through what she's going through in the time and place that she's going through, you are a much better relator when it comes to teenagers than I would be. It doesn't matter how many numbers, names and numbers and letters and everything that would go behind my experience. You are in such a spot for that. I'm wondering, because of your insights, because you do have the wisdom that can speak to a 50-year-old man, you do have that, but you have this heart for teenagers. I'm wondering, is there a part of you that said, well, because I'm a kid, I can speak to kids, but not necessarily adults? Did you go through that crisis yet, or is that a crisis to come?
It's happened plenty of times for me. Especially when I was first starting out, the natural thing was like, why would these adults want to hear what I got to say?
Right.
Because they're probably going to look at me and assume that, oh, this is just some kid. Like, I'm young enough to be your son, genuinely. And I've had people who have told me that, oh, you're too young. We don't want to hear what you have to say. Or they would like put me down to my face. Or I've had people make actual hate videos about me on the internet. And starting out early, there was not only that, but also just the natural age difference. But ironic we say this because it was July of last year. Yep. I spoke to you ever heard of NAMI?
I might have. It's familiar.
National Alliance of Mental Illness.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay, yeah.
I spoke to one of their chapters, and it was mostly people who were like 50 to 70 years old.
Yep.
For whatever reason, they decided to bring me in, and people walked out crying tears of joy. Like, I had a guy who was a veteran, and he started like crying because the stuff that I was talking about is the exact same stuff his therapist was telling him about. The same stuff that like he wished that combat veterans knew. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't have it as bad as a combat veteran, but if these people are getting benefits, then now I'm going to take this even further. So I started taking it to other NAMI chapters, churches. Weirdly enough, I haven't done a YMCA yet. They haven't gotten back to me, but
really,
yeah, like the YMCA has not answered my calls.
Wow.
I've been early on. That was a big thing for me, but now it's still there. Like, it feels a little different when I'm walking into a room and it's people who are like 40 and up.
Yeah.
But the comfort zone for me is anything 26 and below. Because if you're 26 and below, I pretty much know your life. Like, I have studied that age demographic, their upbringing, to the point where I have a 6-page Google Doc of what their life was like. So I could tell you that if you were let's say that you're a inner city man from Philadelphia and you're 17 years old, I can pretty much tell you your life.
Yep. That relatability is gold. And you talk about stretching your comfort zone. I mean, my gosh, you being able to having the tool in your tool chest to be able to go into a room of 40 to 50 something year old men and not just relate, but like articulate to the point where people get emotional. And you know this, I'll tell you this. This is another thing that I'm certain you've heard many times. Guys like you are what give me hope for the future generation, to the world that we're handing off. I'm certain you hear that as well. It's I want to talk about the teenage part because again, my granddaughter's my everything, and I fear for her as a teenager. You know, I didn't have the internet when I was a teenager, and I'm self-aware enough to know how much that changed life, and the idea that someone was born into it, that just accepted it, is able to even take it for granted. You know, Public Enemy, they sing a song, "What you gonna do when the grid goes down?" You know, and I mean, that's a trial that this generation and below is going to have to figure out. What happens if the thing that they relied on their whole life goes away? I know what it's like without it. And I think about her as a teenager, and I think about bullying, how back in the day, I used to be able to go to the YMCA. Grade 4 was my worst year. And thankfully after that, things kind of went up for me. And I had a good friend group, and the kindness for me didn't do what it did for you. Unfortunately, and I feel bad that you went through that. I'm glad that you did go through it, and you still see that kindness wins out in the end. I love that. But I think about my granddaughter, and I think about the idea how bullying, it doesn't stay at the school ground. For me, I could go to the YMCA. I could go to the Boys and Girls Club after school. There'd be a different friend group there. It doesn't matter the day that I had. I could go to these places and play some floor hockey, play some volleyball, play some whatever, talk to one of the people and talk it out a little bit. But now when you have a device with you, or other people have devices and they can swarm you, the bullying follows you home.
Yeah,
I
and
can't relate to that, but a guy like you can relate to that. And I want to ask this, I hate that we're moving towards close. Gosh, I got to have you back on the show. We got to talk more about this. But you talk at school assemblies, you talk to teenagers. There's a lot of dads who listen to this podcast right now. And I would love you to speak to the dads about what some of the pressures, some of the things that these teenagers are going through. Because Lawrence, I really do see you as a conduit between two worlds. Our conversation up to this point has shown that you can hang with anybody, doesn't matter their age and experience level. You're there, you can hang. You were made for more, and it's very, very clear. So you talk to these teenagers and you give them this hope, and you give them these tools, these action items that they can do to have a better life, a better existence. But then you can also talk to us old farts who aren't with it the same way that you are, and you're in that world right now. What would you have to say to the dads out there of teenagers or kids that are living in this ever complex changing world?
it is a completely different world than how you grew up. Obviously, I don't know what it was like when you're growing up, but now the internet has made life digital. Let's say that when you were 30 years ago, you decide that, hey, I want to go get a girlfriend. And you go down the street, you go meet Sally, and now you have a relationship. It might not have been that straightforward, but it can be simplified to that. Two people in the same area. Hi, my name is, and you kind of get to know each other and things just kind of naturally flow.
Sure.
Now you have to deal with the pressures of like this person hyper analyzing your social media profile. And then you have to deal with like the judgment of pretty much the world. Then you have to deal with the complexity at school because somebody decided they want to make a post about you, and then cyberbullying, and then internet algorithms showing you the most like blown out content where you see the best of the best. You see the most rich person. Like, you can go on social media and you can easily find 18-year-olds making $1 million a month, or at least they claim to. And if you see this over and over and over and over and over, you start to compare yourself and you start to think that, man, I'm not as good as them. And that's something that like especially happens with men, but with women, it comes down to like beauty. It comes down to Ozempic. It comes down to eating disorders. Like, I can't remember the exact percentage off the top of my head, but I know it's at least 50% of girls who are teenagers deal with eating disorders, or at least they have the signs of them. So it's sort of like men, well, like, let's just say teenage boys. They're dealing with, I need more money. I need to look cool. I need the car. I need the status so that people will like me. I will be acceptable to society and I can get a girlfriend. Whereas on the other side, it is, I need to have the skinniest waist. I need to look like a Victoria's Secret model. I need to have the best makeup ever. And I need to have all of these, like, this visual appeal to be loved. So we have one person who is getting constantly told that money, status, and material possessions are the only thing that matters for you. We have another person who's being told that your physical body is the only thing that matters for you. And then we could take it even further. And then on one side, we have people going down the path of like buying these like red pill coaching programs. And then on the other side, we have OnlyFans. So, and mind you, this is the stuff that is getting like actively pushed. Like, it is pushed deliberately. So my advice to dads would be, let your sons know that they're loved not for what they have, but what they are. And not what they are in the sense of you're a straight A student, or you are a football captain, or
Yep.
you are the MVP on the basketball team. Not for
Yep.
that, but for you. Like I love you because I loved you. I don't
You are
love
enough. The way
yeah,
you are, the way you are, just the way you are is enough.
yeah, like you're a cake and all your extra stuff, that's your sprinkles.
Yeah.
I love the cake. The sprinkles are just like cool to have. And to your daughter, let them know that you matter not because of how you look, but because you have inherent human worth. Like it doesn't matter if somebody liked your post or not. It doesn't matter if you are or are not a certain weight, as long as you're like, not having medical issues. That's like an outlier. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter what you have. It just matters, are you being somebody who is a good influence on the community?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you have to go out here and try to be, the next MLK. It
Mm-hmm.
just means that you have to love yourself for you and remember that all that extra stuff, that's cool to have, but you don't need it.
The ironic part is, I think, again, back to my granddaughter, I think she would hear that differently from you than she would me. And
Yeah. I mean,
it takes a community to raise a child. I think about the idea of the community that you are helping all of us to build by shining the light that you are, Lawrence. Those words, I mean, it doesn't matter the age. I think about, like you say, I watched the progression to where these things are pushed on us. I can remember it without it. It's a fire hose now. And kids are literally, I went from a little drinking fountain, right? Little tiny stream, and then watched it, and it turned into a fire hose. But kids are literally just getting the fire hose shot at them right from the very beginning.
yeah.
And it is a different world. But the same thing is true. Comparison is the thief of joy. And we live in a world now where they are the comparison. It's not just comparison; it's hyper comparison.
Yeah.
It's comparison at a level that we've just never unprecedented levels. And you being able to say that from your vantage point, the world is a lucky place to have you, Lawrence. And I just as we kind of wrap up here, your first appearance on heCast, I just want to say thank you so much for being the light that you are. If people want to find you, where are the best ways to find you? I know that you take bookings, you'll
Yeah.
do school assemblies, which I think, it's cool going to these mental health organizations and some of these big organizations. That's fantastic. And it's great for the resume. It's great for the life experience. And it's great for you to take old guys like me and to challenge us a little bit. I love it. But man, am I ever concerned for our kids. And I think about the idea of you going to school assemblies and doing this and putting this message out there and showing them the other path that might be a little bit hidden is essential. And what you're doing is amazing. And I just want to help you turn your light up. So if people want to book you, if they want to reach out to you, you can do lawrencecharris.com. That's your website. And it's a
Yeah.
great website. It's nice and simple. You've also got a podcast. You've also got other materials, YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
I got tons of
Can you
stuff
plug
out
that
there.
stuff? Please plug it. Plug it all.
So if you want to contact me directly, whether that is for some sort of speaking booking, I'm assuming most of your audience is in Canada.
No, we're all over the world, actually.
Okay, great. So
Yep.
speaking bookings, if for some reason you're looking for that, I mostly do just America because, flying across the border, it's actually weirdly complex for business purposes.
Do you have a passport yet?
I have a passport. It's just it's a weird thing when you're trying to go to Canada to make money. They want their taxes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if you're in the US and you're looking for bookings, that is Lawrence@lawrencecharris.com. You can use that. Or if you're just looking to contact me, maybe you have a question. Maybe you're like, hey, Lawrence, my grandson, my son, he's dealing with XYZ. Do you have any advice? You can email me, Lawrence@lawrencecharris.com. My social media, so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, are all Lawrence C. Empowers. Everything
Lawrence
is
C.
just my
Empowers.
name.
Mm-hmm. What empowers you? I mean, obviously giving back and doing
great question.
do this. It's like this. I get it. I get how you get your light turned up by helping other people turn their light up. I get that. I totally do. Take that out of the equation. What empowers you?
Making the little kid inside of me proud.
Ah.
So, 8-year-old Lawrence, he just wanted to make everyone's day happy. 12, 15-year-old Lawrence, he just wanted to feel something. So knowing that if my younger self met me today, he'd be proud of me. Like, he'd be like, okay, Lawrence, we made a couple rough decisions on the path. We made a couple of decisions that might not have been the best idea, but overall, we turned out pretty darn incredible. So knowing that I would be proud of myself is what keeps me going.
God, I don't know. I think I've said it on the show, but I was talking to somebody not that long ago, and it was an insight that I got about myself. I'm constantly trying to impress the 19-year-old version of myself. And I find that at 50, that realization is there. It is uncanny to me that is your answer. And I mean, you talk about the insight, childlike faith, the Bible talks about the idea of having childlike faith, being childlike in life, the idea of being able to have that wonderful, innocent, fearless expression towards life and to view it that way. I certainly feel that today. I feel empowered by you, sir. I certainly hope that today's experience for you has been a good one. He changed it. What it is, we're trying to be a light in this world, to be a place where guys can turn up their light. And really at the end of the day, I just want to say thank you so much for being who you are and doing what you do. Thank you so much for coming on heCast today, Lawrence. It was an absolute honor for me to meet you and to talk to you about this. And I hope it's not the last time.
Thank you. I loved it.
Yeah, well, coming from you, that means a lot. It's crazy. You are one of the most interesting humans I've ever come across, and I've come across quite a few of them. This is why we do the show. I say that when we close off all the time, and it's funny because every single conversation is a completely different reason, but yet it's all the same thing. This is why we do the show. We share perspectives. We talk about that. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to hechangedit.com for all the information about He Changed It, the app for men. This has been another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.